Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. I am Robert, your resident Gen Xer, and right over there is John, your resident Millennial, coming at you live from Millennialville.
Yes,
Millennialville.
they keep us. We're not being used. Yeah,
Dude, you're a
dude,
millennial. I'm just saying.
dude.
How's your day going, John? How's your week going? How's life treating you? Are you being treated?
Um, yeah, I actually have a pretty exciting 2 weeks coming up. So,
What's that got to do with the price of China and tea?
well, you asked how life is going, so I'm saying I'm excited about it. It
So
means
what's
I'm
coming up in
optimistic.
2 weeks, John? Tell us. Tell us. Divulge.
Well, next Wednesday is my birthday,
Yeah, nobody
so
cares
that's
about
pretty
that.
cool. And I'm gonna get a nice steak dinner, so that'll be awesome. Looking forward to that. Yeah. And the following week, I'll be going to Charleston, South Carolina, my hometown where I was born. So.
Oh yeah,
Also my favorite place on
yeah.
the earth.
So,
So
so I'm assuming that's going to lend some sporadic nature to whether or not we'll have you on the show consistently.
I will definitely make it that Friday. I should be able to make it on the Monday, but those will be the only 2 days that we'll have shows that I'll be there.
See how
But I'm
he's
coming back on that.
see
So
see what he does to
but
you,
I should no
folks.
reason why I wouldn't make it.
See
There's no
what he
reason why I wouldn't make it.
see how he lets his personal life affect things. This son of a bitch. I
I
see.
know. How horrible.
I'm assuming you're offending people in the audience. I would right now. I see Elephant Man. And of
Yeah.
course, yes, Henry is first. Um, Florida man tells
Mhm.
Biden to go fuck himself. Hey, that's a Florida man thing. What,
I
what,
think
what can you
that's
say?
I don't know. I only saw one article and it was from a very questionable source, so I don't know that that's true. If you have like a more reputable article and maybe multiples of them, send them to me on Discord because I would love to see it. I would love for that to be true.
I would
I
love
would
to
like
see that
nothing
too.
more
Yeah, give
for
us a
that to be
link.
true.
Give us a link, and
Yeah,
John would like to see that if it gets shared with you. Share the
for
screen.
sure.
That would definitely be something fun to see. Um, yeah, but I have to ask John. Is there some part of you that like you've lived here in Florida for how long you say?
Roughly 15 years.
Okay, so you're considered
As in, like I've gone back and
you're considered a cracker. If
yeah,
you've lived here longer than 7 to 10 years, you're considered a cracker. Um,
right.
do you
Yeah, I mean, if someone asks me where I'm from, I would say I'm from Florida first. Oh, I'll ask originally or whatever. So,
do you
yeah, but
is there some deep dark part of you as well that gets us a little thrill off the intimidation factor of just being a Florida
yeah.
man. Like when people meet you and you're
Oh
like,
yeah,
"Oh,
there's
I'm
a
from
lot.
Florida," and their first thought is, "Oh, Florida man." It's like, "Ooh, yeah, that's
Right.
intimidating, right?"
I've actually used Florida man as like because people in Florida, I think you'll agree with this, pretty much mind their own business for the most part. Like when you're out in public, the kind of there's no one's going to be staring at you for the most part, right? Of course, there's always uh exceptions, but most of the time, no one's going to be looking at you. No one's going to try and talk to you. They're just going to walk by with their looking straight forward, and it's because no one knows who has a little Florida man in them that's around them. At any time, one around you could be Florida man, and you could be having a Florida man type situation going off. No one wants that.
I
So
won't. I won't say we walk
we're a little
around
bit
on.
more polite around
We
here.
don't walk around on eggshells
No,
here,
not like that.
but there's definitely seashells. I'm just we
But
we
yeah,
we do
yeah, for
walk on
sure.
seashells. So you have to take everything everybody says with a grain of salt. Like Florida's the best, one of the best places to gain a thick skin. Right?
Yes,
Like
yeah, yeah.
if you tell your kid, "Hey, you need to grow a thicker skin," send them to Florida for a while. Right. I see we
Yeah.
have Celtica saying hello from Germany. Nice to see you over there on D Live, and
What's
welcome,
up?
welcome from Germany. As from America to Germany.
Welcome to
Um,
Germany. Yeah.
to
Well,
well,
yeah.
welcome. We welcome you from Germany to us
Right.
here in
To
America.
here.
Thank goodness we have
Right.
such well spoken individuals hosting
Right.
this said show. I see Ed in
Yeah.
the house. Is
Hosting
there some
the
deep
show.
part of you that wants to do a bunch of meth and steal an end loader? Um, do a bunch of meth? No, but the same results as the stealing an end loader can result from plenty of weed.
Oh
Just
yeah.
saying, right? There's no telling what trouble you might get into on the way to the convenience store to get the Cheetos. There's, right, John? Think of all the things you could see when walking to the store to get some Cheetos, right? And how much
Oh
trouble you
yeah.
could get into. And you're just like,
Oh yeah.
fuck it, why not? Whatever, yeah, let's have
It'd be
some
easy
fun,
to commit
right?
crimes, you know?
Right? You're
Walking
just like,
around, it's hot out, first of
right?
all. Like you're it's oppressively hot out. I mean, yeah.
And if something untoward happens, the best thing is you're in like crash test dummy body mode, like you're just limp and you're just
Yeah.
relaxed. So anything like concussive that might happen, man, you're just rolling with that shit anyway. Woo!
That's right.
So yeah,
Florida man.
but an end loader, maybe. I've always been partial to. I just really want to dig a hole with a bulldozer. I just really do.
That would be cool.
A
I
backhoe
would be
won't be
down for
enough. I
that.
need a full blown bulldozer that looks like a brontosaurus, right? Do it Fred Flintstone style. Dig that hole. I see Ron Helton in the house.
Yes.
Evening Celtic hole. How is the power situation there? Is there an what do I not know? Because I don't
I don't know anything about this either.
because I need to say that I have to say this, but I have to say it in the right way. What is the correct way to say I don't really give a fuck what's going on in the rest of the world at this point in time in my life?
You
How
just
do
call
I
it
say
being an
that in a
American.
how
God
do I
damn it.
say that in a polite way? No
Yeah,
offense.
I'm an American.
Oh,
That's what
is
you gotta
that
say.
it?
I'm an
Is
American.
really so that
Yeah,
that just really
that's
speaks to
simple.
the asshole nature that I would
Yeah.
have in that
They'll know
regard.
exactly what you're talking about.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. That's good. I'm American. All right, I'll take that. And I see
I'm
Wyatt has
sorry,
just
I'm
showed in.
American.
Wyatt has thrown us a yo. Good to see you, Wyatt, from the
What's up,
breakdown
Wyatt?
with Birkenhoff, the
Oh
man with the
yeah.
plan. Got a little freedom scoop action going on in the chat tonight. So I wanted to update on a couple of things, minor stuff. By the way, GameStop, that stock did exactly what I said it was going to do. I told you exactly what would
Yeah.
happen. I predicted it. I was going to take $5 out, and the stock was going to tank. They weren't going to have the balls to hold it and make anything like
Right.
what the $1,000 happened. Well, yeah, that's become a reality. But on the plus side for GameStop, their stock seems to be holding at a decent level with dropping a little here and there but holding at a decent level above where it was when this originally started out. So many props to them. It got them a lot of visibility and has helped their company. But yeah, because I think
Yeah.
the last I checked on that $5, I had less than $1 of my investment in value left. So it was.
Damn.
I was like, well, there you go. There's $5 well spent for an
Right.
experiment. Um,
Right.
but another interesting thing I was doing was, well, I thought it was interesting. I was checking up on the gun legislation that we talked about on a previous show, and just FYI, it hasn't really moved. But I do want to mention that something to take away from this is each one of there's different parts of this, all the different legislation that they have in there about getting testing and storing the gun. Each one of those is different legislation like that can pass, different amendments to the overall bill that can pass or fail apart from the rest. So I was like, wow, this looks like a lot of legislation on the books that they have to look at. But something else that I noticed, that a couple of things that were brought forth. One was interesting. It's been submitted to the House a constitutional amendment to lower the legal voting age to 16. They've got it on the congressional records. Um, basically being submitted at the beginning of this month that they want
That's
to
so
try and get the legal
stupid.
voting age down to 16. Well, now, and here's the case that's made for this. All right. 16-year-olds are legally permitted to work and pay federal income tax on their earnings. They are legally
Hmm.
permitted to drive motor vehicles, and if they commit crimes, they are tried as adults. If they are impacted by our laws, it is only fair that they be allowed to choose their representatives. Granting them the right to vote ensures that their concerns and voices are heard by policymakers.
Hmm.
Now, am I correct that your primary argument against a 16-year-old having the vote is because of age? Is that correct? Maturity, I should
Uh,
say.
Maturity, responsibility level, that sort of thing. As in, first of all, we don't trust them to join the military at that age. We don't trust them to drink alcohol at that age. We don't trust them to smoke tobacco or buy lottery at that age. We don't trust them to buy a firearm at that age. So, well, yes, we trust them to drive, which I'm not even sure if that's probably a good idea, but it is what it is, right? It's still 16. And then we permit them to work, but very restricted. And that whole permit them to pay federal taxes. No, they're forced to pay federal taxes if they work.
Well,
So I think what we know, we need to come up with one age where you get all your rights. This like staggered bullshit, because then you can make an argument for either side. But I think we restrict 16-year-olds far more than we give them freedom.
well,
At least their constitutional rights as opposed to natural rights, of course. Um, so no, I mean, and also it's clearly a political play. They don't really care about representation to 16-year-olds. They know that 16-year-olds are more likely to vote Democrat, and so they're going to try and obviously get as many Democrat voters as possible.
it's well. I mean, if you know, and this this is going to speak to part part and parcel part of what we're talking about tonight in the show.
Mhm.
But we've been under the impression that Generation Z is a more conservative generation, right? And some of the tail end of Gen Z are these teens we're talking about right now, and then you've got Generation Alpha that in the next two elections from now, as far as presidential election, they're going to be of that age to be voting, right? Um, so but the question that comes to mind to me is that the age of permission for things does vary by state, right? When
Right.
you talk
For a lot
about
of things,
being
not
a
everything. Yeah.
consenting adult, whether or not you're tried and as an adult,
Right.
even labor laws will default to state with federal labor law as a
Right.
backup, and
Right.
states are allowed to do that. So there, the laws for minors can be, in some states may not
Yeah.
be the same for a 16-year-old as other states, to where they are for all intents and purposes being recognized as an adult at 16 years old in almost every capacity except that right to vote, and the fact that states are responsible for running their own elections. Is it only the federal mandate of 18 years old that prevents states, or would it be okay for a state to deem 16-year-olds, much like
Um.
cannabis is being legalized against federal mandate?
Right. So, well, I think they would have a right to do that at the very least in local and state elections. I'm not sure how the federal
Right.
law would work in a federal election. Um, but I mean, yeah, a state, at least in theory, could do that. Obviously, I don't think they should,
Well,
but yeah,
I
I mean, they certainly could. But at the same time, it's like it has to be one standard. If they're old enough, for voting, then they should be old enough for everything else too,
right,
right? I mean, we
right,
we rely on like you're a full citizen when you vote, when you're allowed to vote, right? That's when you become
right.
a full citizen. Well, are you a full citizen or are you a restricted citizen that doesn't have all your rights, but you still get to vote for stuff? Well,
Well,
you
that's the
need to
question.
have everything.
When do your constitutional rights kick in? Right? Like like that question comes into play throughout so many aspects of your life up until you're 18 years old are about your constitution. Think about the right to privacy, where
Hmm.
now parents can be sued by their kids and potentially win for a violation of their privacy
Yeah,
in their
which is ridiculous.
devices and things like this.
Right, which is ridiculous, especially if they're not paying for those devices. If they are, then that's a different
But does the
legal question.
but does the Constitution
But
clearly lay that out when as to when a person is deemed constitutional rights, not inalienable rights,
yeah,
but
I know.
constitutional rights? Is that set forth in the Constitution at all?
I
And
don't think so,
and
no.
should it be?
No, I don't think it needs to be
Well, I mean,
because that can change. I mean, what age a person becomes an adult has changed and varied throughout history and different cultures.
what about a precedence being set that it's an invasion of the Fourth Amendment? A violation of the Fourth Amendment to go into your child's phone.
I mean, it depends. Are you paying for it?
Doesn't it doesn't
It
matter
does matter.
if
If you're
it's
paying for it, it's your phone
because
that they're allowed to use, which is
well
a legal
we're
distinction.
we're going to go on the legal distinction that it was given to the child
Right, but if you are
as a
paying for it, it's still your
well,
property.
possession is 9/10 of the law, right?
I mean,
So there's
yeah, but if
that.
you're a ward of your
Sure.
parents, then by extension, that phone is theirs. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to go by verbal contract.
Because the parent,
Did you lay it out clearly
well,
in a verbal contract?
the parent is responsible for what the child does.
Right. So
So
but ultimately that's my point is these things will be argued in court and a precedence could easily be set that it's a violation of a constitutional right to do
yeah,
that if you go into have it happen in the wrong state by the wrong state supreme court, etc., right? To where it eventually gets kicked up and you'll see it go up against the Supreme Court and then the Supreme Court has to make a decision if, well, what does the Constitution say about when your rights kick in? It's sticky. But speaking of rights, now I saw this and this jumped out at me because I was like, first it jumped out at me because I'm like, so this is a resolution that has to be passed in Congress to have happen, okay? To officially happen as a country, I guess. All right. Real quick before I talk about this, I'll check in with the chat. But they were talking because of winter in the coal factories, or Ron Helton was talking about the power.
mm,
They're having to rely on their coal plants and stuff to keep up with demand. Wind and I guess wind
right.
turbines and solar are not really doing anything right now in the dead of winter. Celtica Merkel is a bitch. The peoples go off street.
I don't
AMC's.
know what that means.
Uh, uh,
Sorry, man.
yeah, I'm not. I think we understand the first part.
Yeah, I was absolutely understand the first part, and I also would tend to agree.
Alpha Man says AMC stock is the better play. Yeah, if you're smart about buying into it and plan on holding it for the long term. I'm not a stock professional. I don't give any advice. I'm just saying, hey, this is my thoughts on it.
We just like the stock.
Yeah,
That's all.
I didn't even say that. Elephant Man says it's all unconstitutional. Voting age and draft should be 21. I can understand that to a certain degree. You know, but if
Yeah,
again,
and
if you can sign up for the military at 18, I think that should be that's one of those things. That's everything that you would normally be able to do at 21 should kick in for you as a military individual at the
right,
age of 18.
for sure. But also, Elephant Man made a good point. I do want to mention it since we're talking about the voting thing again. He said I would say you have to at minimum be a net taxpayer, which is true. When they get the argument of they're working, so they should be represented. They're paying taxes. Well, they technically aren't paying taxes. Like, yes, taxes are taken out of their paycheck every paycheck, but they get all up back when they do their taxes at the end of the year or the beginning of the beginning of the year. And so they're either usually getting it all back or getting more back than what they put in. So they're not even being uh, a net taxpayer, right? They're either getting it all back or getting more back than what they put in.
Unless you can still be claimed as an exemption by your parents, and then you're not taxed at all.
There you go. Yeah. I mean,
Um,
that's what I'm saying. So that
right.
argument falls on its face anyway.
But
The one argument they would have.
if they rose if they it dropped the voting age to 16, I think all that would change though. There would
You
be
think so? Yeah,
yeah, I think
probably.
the tax rules for a 16-year-old would change, and the ability to claim them as exemptions would change. They're already using the 17 years old as a cutoff for like children with the child tax credit. So before they're even
Hmm.
18 now. Um, Helton says raise voting age back to 25. End taxes. Taxes are theft. End conscription. Age 25 and you have to own property. Elfman says, earlier to leave it up to the states. Wyoming allowed women to vote way before anyone else. Uh, Helton says that was a different breed of women. Common sense over there. Right. Helton says, "Son, here's a cell phone. Sign this agreement that gives us the right to search your phone at will." Okay, here you go. See, but now see,
Yeah.
Ron Helton, that is exactly the kind of mindset that is out there in with young parents these days. I mean, literally, they this new age pregnancy concept is that you ask your baby who cannot talk whether or not it's okay to change their diaper. Can I change your pants? Can I change?
Hmm.
And you're supposed to pause and let them say answer before you change give them a pause so they could answer if they were able to fucking talk. But before get consent. Leave an open window for consent to change the diaper. When I heard that, I wanted to vomit. So that's the kind of thing that they do want. Like everything's got to be a contract, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to step on a kid's rights because these kids are smarter about this stuff these days, and you know, well, I won't say smarter about it, but no more. Does that make like no more factoid knowledge? I guess to where they can start jumping on some bandwagon. Oh, they're violating my rights by looking at
Oh my
my
God.
phone, right? Because they've heard of the Fourth Amendment, right? Uh, Elfman says your rights are held in escrow until you are legally
Right.
emancipated by a judge or by age.
Yep.
Helton says, really,
It's
as a
true.
parent, you should not have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
course not.
One would think you wouldn't, but guess what? You know, it's not the day and age we live in. It really isn't. It's sad and it's scary. Helton asks if everybody was enjoying their global warming. Yes, of course we are.
It's
Um,
nice and hot still here in Florida. Yeah.
yeah, it's supposed to. It was supposed to get really cold. We were supposed to have a really cold snap this weekend, but it's not going to happen. I don't think. Uh, it, Wyatt says he might talk about the drug war soon on his stream.
That's
Nice.
cool.
Helton wants to be there. Had to run to the store before they. He just wants to. He just wants to make sure you're not like on any live busts that might be on his street in the local area. I just want to make sure I'm hiding my shit. Wyatt wants to come
Right.
in. Investigative reporter. You never know.
Yeah.
Quick, shove it up the chicken's ass. Element says the world's never going to be perfect and life will never be fair. Sure, it will. It will. We will have a utopia one day because life will be a video game.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the when I was looking through these different resolutions that were being presented
Well,
before
real quick
Congress. Oh, go ahead.
before we move on, I want to remind everyone that there's a like button
There
down
is.
here.
It looks a lot like
There's-
this,
Yeah. Right, but it's
right?
probably like blue or white, depending on, or gray. I mean, depending on you have night mode on or not.
Yeah. You
There's a
should
button
hit
that
that.
you should absolutely hit that and subscribe if you haven't. And also a reminder, which Elephant Man has now remembered, that we are again able to accept donations on DLive.
We are.
Elephant Man gave us a whole lemon and a whole ice cream and a
Lemonizes.
diamond. He said, "Donate, bitches,"
The
while giving
harder,
us a diamond. I agree with that.
the harder, the better, baby. The harder, the
That's
better.
right. All right,
Uh,
yeah, thank you guys. Oh shit, there it is. Ninja Genie. He says, "Fuck yeah, Ninja Genie, dude. Thank you, man. Holy shit, just donating all over the place."
so, as I was looking through these resolutions, I stumbled upon one that was, as I was saying, was not only surprising to me just because to realize that something like this could be put forth as a resolution, something I guess that we need to do as a country, but um, what it entailed, and then my mind immediately went to what it could definitely be a precursor for, and it's a little bit scary to me, but it's a resolution. It's House Resolution 103, and it is for condemning the bigotry that was displayed and voiced during. Listen closely. Displayed and
Mhm.
voiced during the January 6th siege of the United States Capitol, the prominent role played by white supremacists and domestic terrorists in planning and leading the siege, and
Ugh,
the elected officials who encouraged them.
eh.
Now, now
It's also tiring.
this is like okay, so of course this is the text of the bill. It's only 7 pages. The resolution. It's only 7 pages, but like 5 of those pages are just the whereas addendums to the primary assertion. So
Mhm.
talking about all, condemning all of the participants and the wearing of all the slogans and symbols of QAnon and uh, you know the organizers being Proud Boys and Islamophobic, misogynist, nativists, and
Oh
all of
God,
this, right? Pointing
right.
them out, all the symbols, Nazi
Even
flags,
the
swastikas,
libertarians.
shirt messages of Holocaust denial, slogans of "Work brings freedom," 6 million wasn't enough. Right?
That's
These
good.
kind of things, condemning the Confederate battle
Oh
flag
shit.
being carried around at the Capitol building, on and on. Condemning a member of Congress who spoke to the crowd outside the Capitol and said Hitler was right on one thing. Dot dot dot. And then, whereas Hitler was a mass murderer, propagandist, and dictator who orchestrated the Holocaust.
Oh
Um,
God.
Seditionists,
Yeah.
all the seditionists, Trump, all the people involved, so many people, just Congress people, one after another. We need to condemn that, and all of it, right? They can. The goal is to condemn the bitterness, hate, and bigotry that unequivocally fueled the domestic terrorists at the Capitol building when they stormed, sieged, and looted it, condemned the elected officials that stoked the bigotry, including former President Donald Trump. So now he's going to be part of the bigotry. Condemns Congress members of Congress who have continued to support individuals that committed an act of treason. Condemns the rhetoric used by this is the one members of Congress, those who participated in the siege and those who supported the siege during and since January 6th, and reaffirms the harmful rhetoric and violent behavior against individuals based on their actual perceived religion, race, ethnicity, national origin, immigration status,
Oh my
blah 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 blah
God.
blah. So they they're going to they're going to put a resolution through that officially condemns all of these things, right? Now that's bad enough, right? But what this is doing is opening a door, because
Mhm.
if they can get condemnation on the books, then they can use that as a springboard to better censor what is said,
Right.
what is produced, right? You won't be able to produce things like Confederate flags on products, right? They will
Mhm.
take these steps if things like this silently slip by.
Yeah. I
You'll
happen to know you already can't get a Confederate battle flag on Amazon, although you can get a lot of other different flags. You cannot get the Confederate battle flag
I mean
on
they
Amazon.
and these kind of things are being put into place that we don't even know about it, and 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 even more so things that we don't know, right? Like there's a couple of things on the books in regard to gun legislation that are actually good, but again, you're not hearing about these things because the mainstream media is keeping it quiet, much like they're
Right.
keeping the impeachment stuff kind of low key in the mainstream media because we don't want public opinion or public outcry from the caused by mainstream media to impact what's going on in the impeachment. We just want it to just happen, him be impeached, and move on,
Yeah.
right? But like, there's a bill out of a resolution out of Georgia in as far as the gun legislation that wants to remove federal funding from enforcing gun control. No more federal dollars spent on enforcing gun control. Leave that up to the states, and they can fund it themselves.
Okay.
And no more enforcing it from the federal level using federal money for that.
Okay.
Right? But you're not going to hear about that, right?
Right.
Or the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act, which is an interstate act that basically says if you have a concealed carry permit and go into a state that also allows them, that is transferable. Like it'll be recognized as a concealed permit in that other state, whereas now it's not. You can't carry your concealed weapon in another state typically.
Gotcha.
What are you looking
I'm
at?
looking I'm looking at for more of the DeSantis thing about him telling Biden, to go fuck himself.
Oh, gotcha.
Uh I see a New York Post that says DeSantis and Rubio slam Biden's potential Florida travel ban. And was just written a day ago. I think that's when the other one took place.
But
The other
surely he
article.
couldn't have said that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And also one of the things that was quoted that Biden said was, "Come on, man," like that. They quoted him as saying, "Come on, man," at the first. I'm like, a little too on the nose. I don't know if I trust that as being real. Like that's just a little bit too on the nose. Right. Unconstitutional, blah blah blah, which is true. Any attempt to restrict
Control
any
F.
attempt any attempt to restrict by the federal government would be an attack on our states done purely for political purposes. Correct. Move is unconstitutional. So no, I don't see anything about go fuck yourself. And like it was this thing where like Biden was like, "You'll address me as Mr. President," and DeSantis was like, "No, I won't. Go fuck yourself." And I'm like, "Dude, there's no way that's real. There's
Right.
no way.
Well, you know
It's just
what?
too."
Well, do Control F and then the search box type in
Well, I've
go.
already finished the article. It said
You
nothing
can't
about.
read that fast.
I
Jesus,
can
John.
skim. I can look for a quote. Go fuck yourself while
Yeah,
skimming.
they're not going to say that in an article, John. They're going to tease you with it.
They're gonna put a little asterisk in
I
place of
don't
the
think
U.
I don't think you can skim well enough to catch the teasers, John. But anyway, so I do. I want. I hope people are aware of these kind of things. Like, it's interesting to go on Congress.gov and look at the stuff that's getting put before the House and before the Senate. These things because you know there's these are the little chips and little cracks in the armor, right? That they keep doing behind the scenes. Maybe you'll hear about the big things like big gun legislation that's going to be going through, right? But
Right.
these little things where it's like, oh, we're just condemning this. What's wrong with us condemning it? Well, you're forcing all of us to, you're saying that's the opinion of the American public, and I don't necessarily agree with all of that. You know, but the springboard that you use it as to go into other fucking tyrannical things, I'm worried about that because we're dealing with an administration that can go white knight at any fucking moment, right?
Yeah.
And save the culture, save the diversity, save the American people. But you know, I I was thinking about this, and I was looking at looking at the fact that thinking about 16-year-olds being able to vote, and then thinking about the generations, and I started looking at some stuff because I had seen something about well, Gen Zs are calling millennials out for the things that you do that are uncool now, right?
We're old, so
Right, the things that make you old, right?
yeah.
So I'll tell I'll ask you about it, John. Do you wear skinny jeans? Have you, or do
Not
you wear skinny jeans?
never, never once.
Okay, because skinny jeans are old
Oh,
now.
I know.
Those are
I've
you're such a millennial if you're wearing
my
skinny
my
jeans.
balls are literally too big, and I'm not trying to like boast or anything. I'm saying they're actually too big to be in skinny jeans.
Well, if you were only trying to put your own pair in, that would be the thing. Um,
Right.
okay, so if you were to go without a hat, if right you were to go without a hat,
Hmm.
where do you part your hair?
What hair?
Right. So okay, when you have hair, when you've had hair, I don't
Where
know.
do I part? I don't part my hair.
Did your
I've
hair
never
part?
parted.
Did you always have it long? So you just always had it.
No,
So when it was short, did it part? Did
not
you
really.
did you have it long enough to need a part?
No, I usually had like a buzz cut or something.
Okay,
But always
so
kept it short.
most of the time it
So
was
recently,
too short to really have much of that. So I kind
yeah,
of part mine kind of parts on the side, as you can tell, like right. But
right.
this is definitely this is something that millennials are getting called out for. Parting on the side also is
That
an
was popular in the early 2000s. Yeah.
uncool thing. If you're cool is parting your hair down the middle now. That's the thing. So it's the 80s
Okay.
all over again. The 80s are coming
Sure.
back hardcore, right? Because not only is it the hair parting down the middle, because I remember the 80s, I remember having the big feathered
Right.
coif, as it were, that guys would have, the big feathered do. But on the flip side, mom jeans. That's Gen Z's in love with mom jeans again, which were just the most horrendous things ever. You know, they're saying, "Oh yeah, mom jeans," and I don't know. But I don't know, John. Your opinion of mom jeans?
I'm not sure I'm familiar.
You don't know mom jeans? Look them up. It's easy. You'll see
Yeah.
the images are. You'll know them. You've seen them on Saturday
I'm
Night
sure I
Live
know.
stuff.
I'm sure
Those
I know.
the two gals that do mom jeans on Saturday Night Live. It's funny as shit.
Images. Oh, okay. Yeah. No, fuck
Yeah,
that.
mom jeans. So those are popular as shorts and stuff,
Yeah. No,
mainly
no
with
thanks.
Gen Z. Um, so
Yeah, no, no, I'm good.
but it's kind of it is kind of interesting that now Gen Z is going to start is going to start calling you guys out as boomers, but
Yeah.
for the most part you're going to be the new boomers. uh, but your generation, here's a new
Mhm.
marker for you. Your generation has officially taken over as the largest generation alive
Oh,
right
yeah.
now. Baby boomers are starting to filter out.
Right.
You're the largest workforce. You've also been the wealthiest generation in t- over 2 centuries, right?
Wow.
Like
We're awesome.
like one of the most prosperous generations. Um, I think that's a numbers thing, right? Where
Yeah.
if you don't factor in the right equivalencies, that might not be quite what it sounds like.
Right.
But you will be surpassed by Gen Z. That's the only
Well,
thing.
naturally.
They're expected, but your generation, through inheritances and things like that, through the years, I think it's like 60 something trillion dollars your generation is expected to earn through the rest of
That's
your
awesome.
lifetime. $63 trillion.
Fuck
But
yeah.
remember, the cost of living is going to have everything at about 55 trillion. So whatever,
Right.
enjoy it while it lasts.
Wait, V-Bets is saying millennials are the poorest generation. I don't know where you're getting that from, but welcome, I guess.
Well,
I mean, clearly we're not. But
it's more about accrued wealth, because you've got to factor in billionaires. That elite 1% really throw the
yeah,
bell curve off, right, when you're talking about a generation.
right.
And you've got
But
millennials that
most
have really.
billionaires are not
Do what?
millennials. There are a lot of millennial. There's a lot of millennial millionaires, but not a lot of millennial billionaires.
Well, if you look at Silicon Valley, a lot of Silicon Valley wealth is in the millennial sector, right? Gen X and millennial, but primarily in millennial. I mean, well, what's Zuckerberg? I would say
He might be. He
he's.
might be millennial. He
I th-
can't be. Probably no. He's definitely older than me, but not by.
well, they're given they give the breakdown. The standards right now are kind of swinging between 1 and 2 years, with it primarily being around 1980 is the start of millennial, and it ends at 96 for birth year, right? So about 1980. So like when we were talking um, the guy that we were talking to 2 nights ago that I can't remember his name because I'm too old.
Stefan.
Stefan, and
Stefan.
he was born
Yeah.
in '79, so he was like the very last year of Gen X, roughly. But anyway,
Right.
so I think
He's Gen
Zuckerberg,
X with millennial rising, right?
right? I would be willing to guess. It says millennials right now are ages 23 to
Yeah.
38, and I think Zuckerberg might fall into that category. But probably, I don't know. I see him as a millennial. I don't want him to be Generation X with me. He can
No,
go
it's not
fuck
up to
himself.
you.
It is up to me.
Not up to you.
It's freedom of association, pal. Freedom of association. But so anyway, when you think about the dot coms, the dot com rise was Generation
Right.
X, but Silicon Valley, the rise of all of this, a lot of that is going to be on millennials. Think about the app market and the money being made there. I guarantee you, a lot of those apps are being coded by millennials, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I might have to say millennials are kind of the coding generation,
Sure. Yeah.
right?
Sure.
That really kicked it off. Really did something different with it. But anyway, so but now there we can find out. I can actually give you what could be considered a little bit of a test, John, to see
Okay.
where you fall, right? Okay.
All right.
So here, these are going to be 10 questions to find out which generation your spending and saving behavior matches. So this is going to be more from a
Oh
financial
God,
standpoint, right? Uh,
this is gonna be bad.
so all right, you answer this. You tell me what generation this question speaks to. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see how well you associate. This will give us an idea. When making a purchasing decision, I care most about uniqueness and quality. Which generation am I?
Um,
Uniqueness and quality.
I mean, I personally would, but I'm gonna go with Gen X on that.
And that is the right answer.
Yeah.
Gen X, quality and uniqueness are important to us, while millennials value authenticity and online
Oh,
reviews.
see, authenticity is important. I don't. I mean, I do look at the reviews to see what if other people say, oh, it's broken,
Right.
app, or just to make sure I'm getting something. But that's for quality assurances, which is going back to I care about the quality of it.
Well, now I will say this:
Huh.
if you think about those as far as the spectrum of millennials, so older millennials will value authenticity, whereas younger millennials will value that, as well as online reviews becoming more digital
Yeah.
in the later millennial births. And baby boomers care most about excellent customer service. So the ones older than us are just still hooked on that the customer's always right shit that nobody remembers anymore.
That fucking sucks. Customer is almost never right. The customer is usually an asshole. That's what it is.
All right. I've considered extreme saving so I can retire as early as possible. Which generation am I?
Oh, that's boomer.
You think that's a baby boomer?
Wait, say it again. Oh, I didn't lock my answer in. All right, I didn't say final answer.
I've considered extreme saving so I can retire as early as possible. Which generation am I?
That's probably. I'm gonna say boomer. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with my answer.
Un-
Final answer.
Unfortunately, no.
Really? Does that seem
Um,
like a very boomer thing to do? Or is
fi-
it Gen X
no,
again?
millennials actually.
Oh,
Financial
thought about it, I guess. Yeah, fair. I've thought about that too.
fi-
I thought about it.
Financial independence, retire early, or FIRE is especially popular among millennials who find work stressful and would rather spend time on other more fulfilling activities, probably like playing video games. That's my addendum. All
Yeah.
right. So the next question: if I'm behind on my retirement savings, I would plan to work longer. Which generation am I?
Gen Z? No, Gen Y. Gen X. Sorry, Gen X. Gen X. Gen
That
X.
is correct. In general, the
Yeah.
generations are taking different approaches. Gen Xers plan
It's-
to extend their working years. Boomers prefer to cut spending in order to increase savings, while millennials expect they'll take on a side hustle.
I was gonna say no. They'll just bitch about it until
What's your
someone
side
bails
hustle,
them out.
John? What's your side hustle going to be? Is this it? Is this your
Oh
side
no,
hustle?
no. I legally I can't talk about that.
Uh,
Just
I
hit me up though. That's all.
I hate to admit it, but I don't know how much money I have saved. What generation am I?
Um, I mean that's gonna be millennial, or is that gonna be
That's
Gen Z?
that's actually Gen Z. 57% of Gen Z don't know how much they have in savings compared to 46% of the general population. That's
Yeah.
but there's like fuck it, it's money because they don't, you know, it'll speak. We can speak to that in a moment because there's a reason for that as well. I think. All right, I describe myself as frugal. After all, a penny saved is a penny earned. Which generation am I?
It sounds like boomers. Fuck.
Yeah, it's baby boomers.
Yeah, it sounds boomers. Fuck.
55% describe themselves as frugal versus 40 in Gen X and 30 in millennials, or 33% millennials. Money causes me the most anxiety, more than work, my health, or the economy. Which generation am I?
Sounds like millennials, whiny ass fucking millennials. Or is it Gen Z?
Gen
I
Z.
can never tell because like
A whopping
yeah,
81% of Gen Zers say money is the biggest source of stress compared to 65% of adults in general. Now, real quick correlation: how many Gen Z don't have any fucking clue how much money they have in their bank account?
57.
57%.
Yeah, it's like
And
50 something.
80% of them say money is their biggest source of stress.
So clearly not.
Hello. Hello. Google define correlation.
Yeah,
Uh, Here's another one. My favorite investing strategy is to buy and hold for the long term. Who am I?
sounds like Gen X.
I would say boomer. Yeah, it's boomer.
Yeah. Okay.
Boomers edge out their counterparts, 43% preferring that strategy versus 40 in Gen X and 32 in millennials. All right, I don't care about the traditional rules saying you should spend a certain amount of money on an engagement ring. Also, I think weddings are outrageously expensive. Which generation am I?
Sounds like Gen Z.
Millennial. They're saying
Millennial.
millennial. Yeah. Maybe they may be redefining traditional marriage spending with 79% of women and 70% of men from that generation saying there should be no rules around buying an engagement ring.
I guess that
Mean,
makes sense.
Meanwhile,
Yeah.
81% of women and 74% of women and millennials think weddings are costing too much. But I'm Gen X, and I could have. Shit, that's how I've been all my life. I'm like,
Real.
spend how much? All right. If I have student debt, I owe a lot, more than 50,000. Which generation am I?
Oh, millennials.
No, boomers.
What?
Though fewer boomers, baby boomers than millennials are carrying student debt, those boomers who do have student loans are more likely than millennials to owe more than $50,000
Ah,
because they've had the debt for so long, probably.
right. Yeah.
Or have refinanced it, tossed it around from place to place so much. Yeah. All right, last one. My generation is just 25% of the U.S. population, but we make up 31% of the total income. Who are we? Come on, this should be an easy one.
No, it shouldn't be.
20,
Well, fine.
25% of the population.
Well, yeah, but you said they make up how much of the workforce?
They
Or
31% of the
income,
total
rather.
income.
I'm going to say millennials then.
Hmm. I was going to go with
Is
Gen
it
X.
Gen X? Okay.
Gen Xers
Yes,
have
I don't know nothing about this shit. I don't know.
uh,
That's stupid.
we're only 25% of the population, but our generation, my generation, has also founded more startups than either millennials or baby boomers. More startup companies. We were a, we were a, you know, really out there. So I don't know. I think you've kind of got a decent grasp of
I
finances
don't know.
and thoughts on those kind of things. I mean, it's but that's the game you've got to play moving forward, right?
Yeah.
So, but in talking about finances and things like that, these kind of things, um, one of the things I really realized is because they were saying that they're saying that there's starting to be a little bit too much gray area between generations, right? So that like Generation Alpha, this is almost going to be like a reiteration of Gen Z, as it were. But this is what they were saying, a couple of years ago. Now nothing's really come out about this, but too much. But something I want to ask you, John, what what is going to be the landscape of these generational gaps, these differences, and the path that the different generations are on based off just the last year alone?
Dude, I don't know. That's such a like I would need time to actually think that question out. There's a couple of things. I mean, one, we're in pretty unpredictable times. Like it's really hard to make a prediction on what's going to happen next. Even like within the next year, within the next, couple of months, it's really difficult to make any kind of predictions at this time because I mean things change. Like there's monkey wrenches just raining down on any kind of, path that we're supposed to be taking, and then we just get veered off that path a bunch. I mean, to see, I don't know. I don't
Um,
know. I hope it is true that Gen Z is more conservative than millennials, and I hope that continues with what is it? Would you say it was Generation Alpha?
well, they're still they haven't determined how what their what the classification alpha is. Basically, what they're going on right now because we've gone through Gen Z, right? We did X and Gen
Hmm.
Y, but called
Millennials are Gen
millennials,
Y.
right? And Gen Z. So there's they're speculating that they'll determine call it that. But right now we're looking at a generation that's in its still kids, right? They're just getting they haven't started hitting their teenage years because the cutoff for that was is 2010 or
Oh
so, I think,
God.
right in that area. Yeah, born Gen Z goes through right up through 2012 actually. Um, so we're talking about a generation that's only it's 9 years in its infancy, um, getting started, but their landscape. Now they're about to have a very visceral landscape change compared to what it was going to be, right?
Mhm.
Because Gen Z is getting a wake up call, right? Gen Z and moving into Gen Alpha, for want of a better term, I'll call it that.
Yeah, yeah,
are going to be the first generations where we will start seeing um, more and more kids living the bulk of, if not the full duration of their lives at home with their parents, like
yeah.
not moving out
That's true.
by choice, right? And this
Right.
goes back to that money thing, right? Like
Yeah.
if you've got a
Well, and COVID now.
sure,
That's going to be another reason why people don't move out.
oh absolutely,
Whether this, like, it's, yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. Yeah. So, I mean, that's also by not by choice, that they're
right,
just not able to financially due to choices made by the government.
right. So there's going to be some deeply financial implications there that cause these things. Gen Z hit very hard by the COVID-19 response with lockdowns and stuff because of their younger age. What was their primary industry? They were in the service industry. That's highly populated by the younger generations, right? Various service industries. So those got hit hard, right? So Gen Z got a reality check. That conservative, bit of conservative nature we talked about, combined with this need for more instant gratification and entitlement that they have. Wow, it's going to be. I don't know what's going to. Their generation is going to definitely be impacted by this.
Oh,
How they
100%. Yeah.
how they take a turn, right? They're deeply rooted in all of this political.
Oh, yeah.
I'll call it political ire and stuff, but it's more of a social justice war than political war, if you ask me. um,
Yeah. So,
yeah, do it.
oh,
Jump.
I was gonna say you're looking at the chat, right? Yeah, they've been Elephant Man and VBats have been arguing. It's actually a really good argument that's going on over there
Let's get it going.
about assets and stuff. So obviously, I don't think we should, we don't need to go through each and every point. I just think it's kind of cool that they're in there arguing. I encourage that, so long as you guys are, being respectful to each other. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like to see that. I like to see different, diversity of thought, most important form of diversity possible. I want to see more.
Alpha Man. But yeah, there's Ed does say Gen Alpha is going to be a baby boom. Well,
Yeah,
yeah, there's
especially with Corona, for sure.
yeah,
There's
this
going to
is
be a baby boom coming up,
that's the other thing is like you're going to have this large output of kids, and
and
if you
nobody's got jobs right now either. That's going to suck.
right, and
That's going to put drain on our welfare services.
and it's
And
interesting
God damn it.
where this generation is going to be, where Generation Alpha is going to be fueled by, because it's going to have a mix of parents, right? A lot of
Yeah.
millennials are going to be having babies, because of this. A
Mhm.
lot of Gen Z are going to be having babies because of this. Maybe
Yeah.
didn't plan on getting pregnant, but here we
Sitting around
are,
your little
right?
apartment and there's nothing else for you to fucking do.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that'll be interesting because there will be I think it speaks to a larger mixed generation from the aspect of teachings and parenting, that kind of thing,
Hmm.
which is going to make for I want to I wonder if it's going to be a very confused generation, right? Is there going to be
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's going to be cohesive. Much like millennials, uh, like obviously, a generation isn't going to have completely one thought, right? But most generations have like a defining cultural aspect to them, a cultural trait to them. Like we went through that list, and you're saying, "Oh, I believe in this general, principle. What generation am I?" And you can kind of, suss it out. Um, I'm not sure that Generation Alpha will have that though. Millennials, we did have that. The generation of the lefty,
Mhm.
right? Like that's pretty much what we are. Uh, the additional rise of popularity of communism, and of course, by extension, socialism. Uh, you know, I think communism to a lesser degree, but socialism for sure.
do you realize that the one overriding thing that's going to come from Generation Alpha is a continuation of the argument about which group of Star Wars movies are the best,
Oh
because
no,
they're going to be
so
getting
true.
input. They're going to be getting input from millennial parents,
Oh my
while
God, that's
others are
so
getting
true.
input from Gen Z parents,
That's
and we
true.
all
But
understand.
most people, Gen Z and millennial, did not like the new trilogy. So much so that like they've not retconned the trilogy, but they've fixed a lot of it with like the additional shows, books, comics, that kind of thing. They've fixed a lot of it.
Not for everybody. I
Right.
mean,
No, of course,
right?
some people did like them. I don't know how, but some people did like them. I
And
100% they did.
I would
Saying I
bet
don't think the
there's
majority.
a lot less millennials that like them than the Gen Z that
That's
do.
probably true.
But I mean, so but that, but ta- that, I bring that up for a humorous point, but it speaks to a larger question. Um, the culture war, right?
Mhm.
Is this going to perpetrate the culture war even longer because of the mixed messages that are going to be predominating so heavily in one generation?
See, I don't know. That's the problem is there's a chance that, and I'm going to use this word just because there's no lack of a better word to describe the whole group, but there's a chance that the right wing will lose very soon. I mean, like, absolutely lose the culture war. I don't mean like in a doom and gloom kind of way, be put up against the wall and shot. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is the left already controls every institution in this country, every single mega corporation, every single social media site, every single, everything, right? They're pretty much in charge of everything. And now the government, now they're in charge of the government. It's like a tiny amount of people that wield this massive power in society, especially through social media. And as we've seen now, right wingers have been banned off of fucking everything that it's possible for them to be banned off of. Um, it's clear that while yes, sometimes lefties will get caught in those bans, it's largely one sided. I think we can all agree on that. Um, and it doesn't seem like there's any kind of real movement on the right. There's no cohesion. There's no organization really. I mean, there's just really nothing going on that's trying to combat that.
But the argument, right? Like the argument still goes on in the social media world, right? And
Mhm.
that's where it has its strongest legs, because it is through social media that it is visual, becomes visceral, and impacts politics.
Yeah,
And that is my concern, is that is if this culture war that goes on, that in my opinion is going to lead to a strengthening of lockdowns on our constitutional rights,
oh yeah,
primarily any that it revolve around freedom of speech, press, etc., and privacy. Those things are going to be stepped on more and more. I mean, and I'll talk about guns too. Yes, all
yeah,
revolving around this battle that goes on, and
yeah,
how because politicians are seeing social media they're recognizing it as a voice of the American people, and that's a problem.
right.
Once they recognize it as such, then they're almost obligated to act on it as such.
Hmm.
And that's a problem as well. Because there's a lot of people out there who don't give a shit about it, so don't offer an opinion on it, and thus voices are not heard. The
Right.
real voices that are, not just getting likes,
Or
are
even worse,
getting.
when someone voices an opinion that they've parroted from someone else, as opposed to holding that opinion themselves, right? They're just like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to say, like an automatic, like a knee jerk reaction to, like this sentence. You're like, oh yeah, I agree with that, of course, right? Without having any kind of actual thought going into it. You're just like, oh yeah, 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 of course. Everyone around me agrees with that, so of course I do. And that could be on either side, right? Everyone does that, left to right, whatever. They all do it.
um,
Um,
yeah,
but
go ahead.
no, I mean, yeah, my point about the right absolutely losing the culture war though. Um, it does seem like that's going to happen to me. I know Hell of a Man said, "John, don't be black pilled. Build, build, build." Yeah, I agree with that. And this is some of the conversation Bridget B and I have had together quite often. It's the best that you can do is to be successful, in spite of what people are trying to do to you, how they're trying to stop you. The things like collecting rainwater is actually illegal. Like things like that. It's fucking ridiculous, right? You can just disregard that law completely. I would, at least. I'm not giving anyone legal advice. Just saying I would personally disregard that law. But yeah, so there's all kinds of restrictions and things, on trying to get you to build a better life. But I mean, succeeding in spite of that is the best that one individual can do. And so obviously I would encourage everyone else to do that, as I'm trying to do it myself. But at the same time, I mean, unfortunately, as much as you don't like, as long as you want to laugh at the meme, we live in a society, right? You're going to encounter other people. Your children are going to encounter other people, and God forbid they may go to a public school, and then now they're going to be indoctrinated into the culture that you're trying to separate yourself from. And I just don't think that there's, any kind of like television that you watch, all this kind of stuff. Like you would have to shut yourself off from society entirely in order to get away from that. That's what I mean by the right just being completely demolished in the culture war. Is that you won't be able to do anything without encountering
Right.
the left's culture.
Well, and that's this is something that I think people really need to think about with Gen Z. Very much about Gen Z, with social media. Um, right now, we're seeing the rise and the domination of the social influencer. Right, you're starting to hear
Mhm.
more about social influencers, this and that, and this and
Yeah.
that. Right,
Yeah.
and what's interesting about the dichotomy is that the paradox. Maybe it's a paradox, that the social influencer is trying, is there to influence people to, you know, do trendy things, try this, try that, do this.
Right.
But the audience that's clicking the like button is often thinking they're thinking like I am. They're speaking for me because I like that too. So
Right.
yeah, they're right. So they're almost an advocate. Oh my god. So the evolution of this, where these social influencers, we're going to see them begin to, in different ways, become involved in politics, whether it be supporting candidates, things like this, which I'm sure that they did. They've already been doing through these past election or two, but you're going to see them more visibly involved, to the extent that it won't be long and we'll see representatives in Washington whose background, whose origins were from a social influencer standpoint. Gen
I think
Z.
that's already been done, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really? Oh, well, that's
Yeah.
so. There it is. There, that's even almost that's scarier.
Yeah.
Because when it's all said and done, Gen Z is
I know
learning
they've.
is learning to.
Yeah, yeah. What's her name? Oh, no, I don't think she won. Never mind. the one in
Okay.
Florida.
Oh,
She's running for representative of Florida, and I can't remember.
I know. I remember
You know
something
who I'm
about
talking
that
about,
now.
though.
Maybe
Yeah,
that's. But
can't
yeah,
remember the.
so Gen Z is going to be the first generation, I think, that's going to be able to, that's going to run government from through social media, like is going to actually be able to tie strings and run government like a puppeteer in its own way, in certain ways, right? As we start marching down this path to limiting speech, limiting the printed word, what we can say in television, what we can do, what we must include, what we have to do, what we have to say, what we can and can't own, and what needs to be publicly visible to everybody, primarily Big Brother, right? And it's all because they've got the perfect tool and they're honing it into the perfect weapon to use. I mean, look at
Yeah.
the impact that Donald Trump showed us that social media can have
Oh yeah, he
on,
up upended the entire world.
right?
Like,
And
yeah.
and 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 sad to say, but millennials, who I think are, their primary opponent in this culture war, from the meme standpoint, you hear it all the time. The left can't meme. Well, it
Right.
doesn't appear that they have to,
No, they certainly don't have to.
because I think what is coming about from the from memes is that they're not being taken as seriously as they once were, right? Except by a smaller and smaller crowd. It does. Do
Yeah.
you agree with that to a certain extent?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely think Gen Z is going to win this war. I just don't
I
know
don't
if
know,
it's going.
man.
I don't know if it's going to be won during, if it's going to be them, or if it's going to happen with Generation Alpha, where somehow Generation Alpha finds the middle ground between the two, if there is one.
Plot twist, they're gonna be super libertarian.
Do you, how,
Create the anarchist states of America.
do you think that's possible? Being raised in a Gen Z household, though.
I highly doubt it. But
But
it'd be awesome.
I will say this. The family unit is stronger in late millennials and uh, early Gen Z. In the Gen Z generation,
Yeah, I
like
can see that.
there's more family unit households, mother, father, child.
Well, that makes sense though, because they're of the right
I mean,
age doing that.
don't get me wrong. Millennials have been leading the charge in that. I mean, you guys have a higher percentage of that than we do as Gen X. So hats off to you for that. So the family unit's coming back, but
Yeah.
who knows what the porn industry is going to do to that,
Yeah, you actually might not be wrong.
right?
Yeah.
But
Especially the sex robot industry, which is already a thing. They're just kind of expensive. So like most people wouldn't bother, but as technology gets better, shit gets cheaper and more accessible. So who knows where they'll be in 20 years, where the sex robots will be in 20 years.
right? I mean, you've got to bear things in mind. Like, so, John, you go and have a kid in the next 5, 10 years, right? If you do that, you have to bear in mind that the world that they grow up in as an adult is
Mhm.
going to be run by Gen Z,
Right.
right? They're gonna lay the groundwork, and they're gonna be in control, in power. They're gonna be that generation at the heart of power when your kids are growing up. So you've got to brainwash them properly,
Gonna get them early, yeah.
right? You got to really
Mm,
build that libertarian mindset.
I hope
Um,
so. That's what
so
I'm doing here.
right, and that's so it's something, this is something that we really need to consider, is how people are going to respond. I don't know how millennials are going to respond moving forward after 2020, right? I mean, you're the question mark generation, and how you're actually going to respond, if it's going to make a change in where you guys are at.
Yeah.
Whether it be the culture wars or whether it be the economy, or whether it be just political strife, all of these elements are playing key factors in pivoting most of the younger generations. I don't know that Gen X is and above are going to. I don't know that we're going to pivot that much. Maybe reassess what we're doing financially, you know,
Yeah.
but outside of that, but your generation, you're a question mark. Where where you're going to go, what you're going to do financially. I mean, a lot of people would say that your generation is just would just get is like throw your hands up in the air and be like, whatever, what the fuck, you know,
Yeah.
doom and gloom. But I don't know. What do you think your generation should do, John? What do you think you should do?
I don't know what my generation should do because I mean I don't think most people don't really think on the generational level, right? They're thinking just on a local, local, state, federal, world level, right? That's where how most people think. They don't really think, or they think, sides, belief systems. They don't really think generationally, I think. But I mean, what I'm gonna try and do is just be successful in spite of, everything going on around me. But I do want to, it's nice. It is cathartic to like come on here and just talk about it. It's really nice. So I want to keep doing that. It's going to help my own mental health to do that. um, and yeah, just try and do the best thing that any individual can do, which is to be as successful and prosperous as possible.
Well, right now, you get to experience the rise of, Gen X and millennials in Washington, right? So, from the political spectrum, from the control spectrum, that's what you're entering that realm now. Now you've got to you've got to think because I don't care what anybody says. The way a generation thinks affects what happens in Washington. I mean,
Hmm.
you wouldn't have this old white mentality kind of arguments if it weren't for the fact that these people were you know thinking from their old school mentalities of back in the day. I mean, everybody tends to do it, right? Um, so they do think generationally, but we're coming into more power now. Like both millennials and generations boosted numbers in the since the 2018 midterm elections, and we're seeing a lot less of the boomers in Washington, but there's still a long ways to go, John. To get
Yeah.
you got to get Gen X fully out of there before you guys, but you're going to have to be dealing with Gen Zers. I will say that I think that their generation is going to get involved in politics a lot earlier,
Yeah, for sure.
like as soon as they can.
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
more 30,
Before they can.
there'll be a
Yeah.
lot more 35-year-old presidents running if they
Yeah.
haven't figured out a way to get that turned off.
Oh, that'll go down to 25. Don't worry. Don't fucking worry.
Right,
You vote at 16. Why can't you be president at 25?
right. Why not?
Yeah, slippery slope. It's a thing. It is a real thing.
But so it's it'll be interesting to see. I mean, it's we won't really see any generational impacts for another 5 years or so, but we we haven't stopped seeing the impacts of everything that have been going on this last year. It's like 2020 started off. It could have started off a decade of craziness, right? We never know. We don't know how it's going to pan out until we're through with, we got to get these fires put out, and the economic fire is going to be the toughest one.
Yeah.
And boy howdy, the last thing you
Boy,
want to
howdy.
the last thing you want to do is leave that in the hands of a bunch of kids who don't know how much money they have in their bank account.
Right. Oh my God. I can't imagine. That would actually like stress me out to not know how much money I've got.
Right?
I
I
have to know.
check my bank account every morning.
At least, yeah, at least once a day. I'm checking
I
in.
just do. All right.
Yeah.
So John, I'm gonna call the ball on this one and go ahead and
Yeah, we're all good.
wrap it up a little bit early tonight. I'm starting to get a headache, and Well, an overstretched bladder. I'm going to be honest with you, folks. I don't
Yeah,
have a bottle here with me to take care of this.
yeah,
So, John, if you could do me a favor, if you could tell
absolutely.
these lovely folks who've been so kind to be here with us tonight where they can find us in your most wonderful game show host voice.
I'd love to, except for I don't do a game show host voice. But
Sad.
no matter what platform you're on, if you look in the description, you will find all of our links to all of our stuff. We got our Twitter, which is at the GenGapP. We have our Discord server, which is a lot of fun, and you'll get all the updates for when we're going to stream there. Even if YouTube decides not to send a notification out, you'll get it there most likely. I'm more reliable than YouTube, even though I do miss a few sometimes. But I am more reliable than YouTube. We've also got Subscribestar. So if you have a passing fancy for us, you can give us some money over there. And in exchange, there's different tiers of perks over there. So choose which one you like, and we'll take care of it from there. And well, that's actually about it because I can't push Freedom Scoop right now, right?
Other
But
than
we got Trovo, and we've got Gilded. So if you don't like Discord or if you're banned from Discord, join us over on Gilded because we're over there as well.
Yep. And Gilded is where you can find that right now is the current home of the Freedom Scoop umbrella. It's a Freedom Scoop server, and then sub servers for the different shows are being hosted there as well. So you can find information. Ed is pretty good about getting his information over there. I think he's got some tricks up his sleeve that I'm going to have to check on. But you
Yeah.
never know with that guy. He's crazy. You never know when you're on headboard cam with him. All right. We're going to get the hell out of here for the night. We're going to attempt to be back on Monday night for an episode of Filling the Gap, which will happen at 9:30 p.m. on Monday. Then we come back at you on Wednesday for a rousing episode of Shooting the Shit on Wednesday nights at 9:30 p.m. And then, of course, we'll be back a week from now on Friday night for a regular episode, which comes to you at 8:30 p.m. All of those times are the Eastern Time Zone, the one and only true time zone. All the rest of you are posers. You know who you are. Don't try and be anything else. We're going to get the hell out of here. Thank you, everybody, for showing up and talking with us tonight. We are so glad to see you, and we appreciate the support. Hit that like button on the way out if you haven't already. If you have, don't do it again because you'll break it. But we'll be coming back at you again soon. We'll talk to you later. Peace out, everybody.
Yep. See you guys.
The war will begin.